You're sitting there wondering how it happened so fast. One day she was saying she needed space, and the next she looked fine, better than fine, laughing, posting, living. And you're stuck asking the same question over and over again. How did she move on so quickly when I'm still breaking? Here's the truth most people never tell you. She didn't move on faster, she started grieving earlier. And you stayed, let me explain. When the relationship started to crack, you didn't see it as the beginning of the end. You saw it as a rough patch, something to fix, something to survive. You believed love meant endurance. You believed if you just stayed patient, stayed loyal, stayed calm, things would come back to what they were. She felt something different. She felt the distance long before the silence. She felt the loneliness while you were still sharing a bed. She felt unheard while you were still talking. That's when her grieving began. Grief doesn't always start after a breakup. Sometimes it starts while the relationship is still alive. Sometimes it starts when someone realizes they are emotionally alone with the person they love. While you were planning how to save the relationship, she was quietly mourning the version of you she used to feel close to. While you were reassuring yourself that this will pass, she was accepting that something already had. You stayed emotionally present for a future that no longer existed. She was emotionally preparing for an ending you didn't believe in yet. That's the first reason it feels so unfair. You think she moved on in weeks. In reality, she spent months letting go while still holding your hand. She cried in private. She questioned herself at night. She really tried to feel the connection again. And every time it didn't return, a piece of her detached. By the time the breakup happened, you were just starting your grief. She was already exhausted from hers. That's why your pain feels raw and hers looks calm. After the breakup, you replayed every moment, every text, every argument, I should have said this differently. You stayed in the past, searching for the moment where things went wrong. She stayed in the present because she already did that work. You're not weak for feeling this way. You're not slow. You're human. But you didn't grieve when you should have, when the warning signs were there. You ignored the emotional shifts, the shorter replies, the lack of curiosity, the way conversations became practical instead of intimate. You thought staying meant loving harder. She learned that staying was hurting her. And here's the part no one talks about. Moving on faster doesn't mean loving less. It often means loving alone for too long. She didn't wake up one day and stop caring. She slowly accepted that caring alone was breaking her. So she started to grieve quietly, without telling you. Not because she was cruel, but because she was tired of explaining feelings that weren't changing anything. When someone grieves during the relationship, they don't collapse after it ends. They feel relief mixed with sadness, clarity mixed with guilt. You, on the other hand, feel shock, confusion, abandonment. Because for you, the loss was sudden. For her, the loss happened in slow motion. That's why she can laugh while you can't sleep. That's why she can imagine new beginnings while you're still bargaining with the past. But here's the mistake you're making right now. You're comparing timelines. You're measuring your healing against hers, and that's poisoning your recovery. Her journey doesn't invalidate yours. Her speed doesn't mean your depth is wrong. You're grieving honestly. You're grieving fully. You're grieving in real time, and that matters. Right now you're staying, mentally, where she already left months ago. You're still hoping for closure, still hoping for a message, still hoping for proof that you mattered. But closure doesn't come from her understanding your pain. It comes from you understanding the truth. The truth is, she didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because she felt alone while being with you. And that hurts to hear, but it's not a character attack, it's a wake-up call. You stayed in comfort, she moved towards self-preservation. You stayed in potential. She chose reality. And now you're paying the emotional price of staying too long in denial. But here's the shift you need to make. You can't heal by replaying her healing. You heal by finally allowing yourself to grieve, without resisting it. Stop telling yourself you should be over it by now. Stop shaming yourself for missing someone who already let go. Grief isn't a race, it's a process of honesty. You're not behind. You're right on time for your healing. And something powerful happens when you stop staying in the past. You begin to grieve what you lost, not what she gained. You grieve the version of yourself who waited, who hoped, who loved without guarantees. And when you do that, you stop romanticizing her moving on as proof of your failure. Because the truth is, she didn't win by moving on faster. She survived by grieving earlier, and now it's your turn. Not to chase, not to compare, not to punish yourself, but to finally let go of staying where love stopped choosing you. One day you'll look back and realize this pain wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And when you heal, not quickly but deeply, you won't just move on. You'll move forward as someone who knows when staying costs too much. And next time, you won't ignore the signs, you won't grieve alone, and you won't confuse endurance with love, because love doesn't require you to stay where you're already being left.